Welcome to the Embodied Wisdom Podcast.
Well,
Gonna be fun.
yeah, you are a supporter, as I can read you. So you have quite the attachment to other people's emotions, don't you?
Yeah, I navigate them pretty well at this
Yeah, you
point.
do.
I'm
Yeah,
doing
you
all right.
do. I was um I was watching through your Instagram stuff to get a feel for
Oh,
you, to get a feel
good.
for where I wanted to go with the conversation. And I'm like, what a beautiful man you are. You have just
Oh,
this very nurturing, loving, supportive energy, which I think the world just needs to see more of men like you. Because I
wow.
from the way I see it, men are really stepping into their own healing journeys. I think they're following the feminine and they're really learning how from people like you to be perfect balance of the masculine and feminine in a, a very masculine men, right?
Mhm.
Which is how I see
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. I will let that in. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, what a nice thing to say.
Yeah.
Are we
It's
recording yet? Can we get this on
we
record,
we
please?
we are recording and I like to just dive right in. I don't like to do too much, hey, this is who we are and this is what I like to dive right into the conversation because I feel like it's just way more authentic. So I just want to start because like I said, I see you as a man that really gets to show the world what it looks like to be a healed version of the masculine and feminine within you. And just in that healthy version, you also get to hold space for both men and women. And do you find that you attract one more than the other currently?
I find that the work that I do is really effective across the gender divide.
Yeah.
So my background is mostly men's work. It's sitting
Hmm.
in men's circles. It's working with men, facilitating men. And then this type of coaching modality that I practice now for relationship coaching, super effective between two heterosexual people across the gender divide. So it's surprising that I'm attracting mostly women. It was like, okay, I'll just roll with it. This is beautiful to recondition attachment with people through coaching. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, I tend to work with women, and I always thought that it was because women were just not ahead of the game when it comes to healing, but just they have a stronger desire to heal. But what I'm seeing now in men is men are really being called forward to heal their stuff. And it's really necessary for that next tick up, this expansive space where I'm seeing a, an opportunity for healthier relationships as we learn ourselves and as we heal our own shit. Where it opens us up to that next level. And I think men are being called upwards. So I'm constantly looking for men like you that I can, because when I work with the women, they're like, I need something like this for my husband. And to have someone like you that you could be that bridge. I love to connect with men that are doing the work that you're doing. So you said that you started with men, but you're finding that you're attracting a lot more women.
Yes. Men's work was my alma mater, so to
Uh-huh.
speak, that I really discovered personal growth work through men's circles. And then this type of work that involves some re-experiencing and role play is really effective with women. So the coaching modality that I trained in is pretty like it's sort of flirty. It's
Uh-huh.
re-experiencing things in real time of
Hmm.
setting boundaries or feeling what it feels like to receive. Because if we haven't received kindness from another person ever in a really clean, healthy way, it's terrorizing. Like it's terrorizing to feel that kindness coming into us. So there are processes like that that worked really well with women, but yeah, I work with men too. So I have a lot of perspective on what men are going through. And you said, they're not necessarily that the feminine's leading, but I would say that it is squarely, that women have had their glow up, so to speak, that they've done a lot of the man skills in the world. They've gone out in the workplace and demanded their worth. and they had a level of emotional intelligence just to start with that women were allowed emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Men were not allowed emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of ways that stunted men, and they're having to do some work to catch up now. And a lot of them are doing it. It's not like they're just sitting there on their butts. It's a sincere desire to engage with that type of work, of how to exist as themselves better, how to do relationship better, like you were saying. And you said there's a call from women. It is a call. It's a pretty forceful call. It's, I can't take this anymore. I need you to show up right now in your fullness. I bet a lot of your clients have relationships where they don't feel like they're with an emotionally available partner. Like that is the synopsis, that is the summary.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my partner is distant even when he's sitting right there. So in men's work, guys experience what it's like to have somebody else right there in a really forceful way. There's a lot of call to accountability. There's a call to openness, to honesty that's powerful. And guys who are experiencing that for the first time, it's pretty tearful. Oh, there's somebody hearing me. There's somebody who's actually going through the same thing. That they go to a men's circle and it's basically like one part mastermind, one part group therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just a weep fest or this emotionally open thing. There's a strong element of challenge and accountability that comes with the men's circle. But when guys show up there the first time, they realize, oh my God, other people are suffering. All these guys who look like they've got it together are actually cellophane and spiders inside. It's anxiety. It's like there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear, a lot of doubt. And when men realize that other guys are going through the same thing, it's usually kind of a tearful, impactful moment for them.
Well, I love that. In the work that I do, in the few men that I have gone through my quantum healings with, it's very difficult for them. It's almost as if they took the plug and pulled it out from their emotions. And it's
Mhm.
very hard to get them to stick that plug back in, to feel their feelings.
We don't know where the plug goes.
Yeah.
We don't know that there's a plug. We don't know where the plug goes. It's a long journey from head to heart for men. And
Yeah.
it's a difficult moment when guys are asked what they feel. In a men's circle, you can carry on about whatever the problem is and to actually label it as what's the experience right now? Oh, yeah, I'm in a huge amount of fear. I have this situation at work, and what's most resonant for me is fear. And it takes guys time to actually think that through to get to where the emotion is. It's not a matter of feeling that the plug is really disconnected.
Yeah.
And when they go to look in their body of how they feel, the answer is stressed. The answer is I'm good, I'm fine, I'm bad, I'm stressed. Kind of, it's not granular whatsoever. Whereas women will be able to tell you that, oh, I'm feeling like melancholy. They'll have some expression that's a lot more nuanced and shows a way more refined emotional vocabulary than men who are pretty much bad, mad, fine. So when guys start to put those pieces in place and they build out some of their emotional intelligence, it's really empowering because those are essentially our instincts. These are our instincts. This is the world informing your body what's right and wrong. Is there a threat in this situation? Are you experiencing disgust? And when we have more of a beat on what that is, we're able to respond to things better. So it's not an exercise in let's sit around and be emotional. There's a practical wholeness that comes from that kind of work. Yeah, send those guys my way. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely, let's do
Yeah.
this. I'm such a proponent.
Yeah. So how do we get them to feel safe to plug that shit in? What makes them what causes them to drop into their body to feel safe, to feel emotions, to allow their nervous system to settle. Like, what is that piece for men?
Men bond through suffering a lot of the time.
Hmm.
So seeing somebody else in their own pain and seeing the example of someone in their fullness and not judging them whatsoever. The impulse is not to judge this other person, this other man in his pain, in his disrepair, to see them in that moment. That's what makes it safe for them to plug back in to emotions and clear out a lot of the more difficult ones that might be blocking their access to joy or contentment, that there's fear and shame down there to deal with.
Yeah. So one practice that I have my clients do is to, when he's triggered, when he's not at his best, to look at him and to see that little boy inside of him that's scared, right? And I have them, I walk them through a visualization of actually picking him up and holding him and listening to him and just being there with him. And I find that it works radically, on an energetic level, that he can shift so fast by just seeing him as this scared little boy that, is being triggered right now, because all of our old woundings, boop, when we're triggered. So what can a woman do aside from, that example? What can a woman do to really hold him in his place of pain when he's suffering? And it might look, like you said, it might look like anger, might look like frustration or fear if she knows him well enough. But what can she do for him to hold him in that divine essence of who he really is?
I'd like to answer that and also comment on something you just said, which is you have your client hold himself. He's touching base with inner child, with sentience. He's like, here's the suffering part. Would you see it? Would you hold it?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when he does that is that he probably stops making decisions from that place of a triggered 10-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
He's no longer acting impulsively from the place of a triggered child who's suffering. That's so useful. So there's so much value in that, whether we're making a decision at work or having a conversation with our partner. Like there's a immediate value add for men in that. It's not just something that women want us to do. It's not pie in the sky emotional fancifulness. It is a real addition to your life that makes you more complete and grounded and capable. So how can women inspire that in men? I don't think they can. I think they can make it a safe space when he does want to open up,
Mm-hmm.
that if he wants to talk, sure, give him space and absolutely don't judge. Don't judge. Guys are asked to be vulnerable, and then sometimes what happens is the woman doesn't actually want that. As it's happening, it's scary to have a man fall to pieces. And if he's not very good with his emotions, he's more likely to fall to pieces. And that's not how we want to exist with our partners as men. We typically want to check in with our partner, say, hey, this is what's happening for me emotionally. This is what I'm doing to handle it. That feels really good to women. Like, I'm aware of what's going on. I have a plan. I have community support to be handling it. That's what women hope when they say, hey, would you be more vulnerable? Would you be emotionally available? What they get might be a lot messier than that. And a guy completely going to pieces, their partner who's totally held it together, can be triggering for a woman if that's not what she's expecting. Because it's nice to have somebody who's on the white horse, who is this pillar of stability, who's saying, it's fine, or it'll be fine. There's actually something nice about that dissociative, strong pillar. Or sure, he's not emotionally available, but he's always there. You know, there's something stabilizing that his suppression of his emotions offers. So when it all comes out, she may judge him for it. She may not feel comfortable with it. She may turn around and use it against him later that he said such and such. And that's tragic to to be in full vulnerability and then be penalized for it ultimately. So, what I encourage men to do is not to be vulnerable. And I don't like the word vulnerable per se. That vulnerable is
Yeah.
one part of the experience of being open and honest and authentic, but it's actually a negative point in that experience. Like vulnerability means openness to attack. It means being susceptible
Mm.
to injury. So that comes with being open, but let's not jump there or
Mm.
fixate on it. So I think a men's circle is a great place for guys to straighten out what their orientation to emotionality is, rather than trying to do it with a woman. It's way safer in a circle of men. At its best, that's a very strong container.
That's so good to know. Yeah, I think that is so good to know. And men just don't have those kind of containers that are readily available. I mean, you're offering one, which I think is beautiful, but I don't think men know that they have these things available to them, you know? So what I found super fascinating is you saying, I don't recommend you being vulnerable. You're right. It has a totally negative it
Yeah,
is negative in general. Saying I'm vulnerable means, hey, you can then attack me. And what I had to learn with my husband, I've been with my husband almost 19 years. And what I had to learn was I had to be unattached to his criticisms, to his opinion. I had to be so honest with myself that I said, this is my truth. I'm not trying to hurt you. I believe there's always, when I go into communication with him, is like I know there's always a win-win, and I'm looking for that, and I won't rest until I find it. I want you to be totally happy, and I want me to be totally happy, and there's a way to create that. As a whole, though, when I communicate with him, it has to be from my purest, most authentic me. So it's interesting that it isn't reciprocated because he's not like me. You know what I'm saying? And so it's good to know, okay, wait, your first step is really to get real with yourself, get together in these men groups, learn how to express yourself, and then are you saying bring it to your companion? Or
ideally.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's kind of like cross training where you're in your partnership with your companion, and that's one type of connection and intensity. And
yeah.
then a men's group is another, and a men's group is kind of a strength training or whatever you'd call it. That there's more reality that happens in a 2 hour men's group than happens in all the rest of the week. There's more depth, there's more story, there's more connection in 2 hours in a men's group than happens in the entire rest of the week. So I see it as something that's absolutely available to men. It's a huge movement, and in the next 5 years, it'll be much more built out. It'll be a little social revolution. The guys will be allowed their emotionality. There are huge benefits for that. There are huge benefits from that for women. In your situation, it sounds like you're being really skillful with your partner and you want to be in your best self and have everything all square to communicate with him. That's beautiful. And I also hope that you can be messy sometimes too.
Oh, it
That
gets
he,
messy.
sure, yeah. That he has the wherewithal to hold your messiness. That we all get to be kind of messy
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, he's learned, like, I started on my healing journey before him. So, oftentimes I find with women, they almost need to be alone during their time of healing. I'm the rare exception where I went through that with my husband. He held space for me, even though he wasn't on board initially. Eventually he saw the peace that I was experiencing and he wanted that too. But for most people, I'm finding that they absolutely have to go through their healing journey alone. And that's where I want to get into the attachment styles because you talk a lot about attachment styles. And I'd love to get some clarity on that, how one can know theirs, because I find that they always attract the opposite attachment style.
That's the truth. There's a
So,
strong dynamic, yeah, that can play out in attachment. And it's something that's affected me really personally, really deeply, that coming into my 20s, I had very little ability to connect with other people and a
mhm,
lot of avoidant or fearful avoidant tendencies. That's so hard to bring to a partnership. It makes relationship absolutely a no-go unless you connect with somebody who has opposite attachment tendencies and they're completely reaching towards you. So, avoidant person feels overwhelmed and pulls away. Anxious person feels deprived, panicked, and reaches towards. And it's this dynamic of push, pull, action, reaction. So that was so prominent for me in my life. And actually, I was connected with a woman for 20 years who was a therapist, and we couldn't get it straight. Like our dynamic was this dramatic, anxious, avoidant push pull thing. So there's a lot of intellectual understanding that can go into that, and I'm happy to explain my knowledge around it. But also, the intellectual understanding only gets us so far,
mhm,
especially for people who are really intent on working on their relationship. They have anxious attachment. Their tendency is to fixate on the mind state of their partner and try to figure out what's happening inside my partner so I can get love. And that's absolutely natural. That's their history. So, to rewind a little bit, attachment theory refers to how people form relationships in early life, how early
mm,
relationships affect later ones. And there are a few ways that that plays out based on what our experiences were in early life. And people really resonate with attachment theory because you can learn just a little bit about it and instantly recognize your type.
mhm,
There are basically three types of disturbed attachment and then secure attachment. Secure attachment is where we're cool being on our own. That feels fine being without our partner. And then we can also be with our partner and able for them to rely on us. We're very flexible in terms of our ability to be independent and then also be in connection. The ways that that gets twisted are that somebody won't receive any affection during childhood, that they won't receive attention or soothing comfort often enough when they are expressing a need for it in early childhood, and their attachment system kind of shuts off at that point. They're like, that doesn't work. And they end up avoiding connection. So that's one way that avoidance occurs. And then the person who's experiencing anxious attachment was usually in a situation where they weren't receiving what they needed with any regularity. They couldn't count on what was coming next. Love was there sometimes, but they had to manage whatever was happening outside them to secure love over and over.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
I think I love that you said we can usually identify which one we are quite early. I just found it interesting. Of course, I've always attracted my opposite, but because I have a really big personality, I was always drawn to the most avoidant because
mm,
I'm a very forward person. Have a very big personality. I was always drawn to the recluse man. I was
sure.
like, oh, the one that's hiding in the corner, that one's mine.
He's a challenge.
Because it always challenging. And yet I believe that we set that up before we even come here, that we know the challenges and we pick them before we come in. That's just the way I own all of my shit. And of course, childhood reinforces that. But I think it's just so empowering to know thyself so intimately, to be like, I know the struggles I have and I know why I have them. And it's what you constantly get to work on. So it's not, oftentimes when a client finds their attachment style, all of a sudden they start feeling bad about themselves. And I'm like,
Mm,
no, no, no. This is all good information because that little girl in you, this is how she learned to protect herself. That little boy in you, that's how he learned to protect himself. So it's a really good thing. And don't damn the technology, but just you get to look at it with, like you said, no judgment. I think that's the biggest thing that I see with people on their healing journey, to let go of the judgment, to say, no, we're not going to judge that little boy and little girl who did what they could to survive. We're just going to look at it, observe it, and pick something new, right? So when someone is recognizing their attachment style, they're seeing, their patterns, how do you then coach them to work through those things?
Yeah. You said pick something new. We're
Yeah,
going to pick something new. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, that's really, really hard to do, to pick
it
something
is.
new, especially in romance. When we're going out there and we're seeking what's familiar,
Yeah,
like, ooh, what's going to light me up? And it sounds like you have a thing for reclusive guys.
yeah,
There's a guy who's a mystery, who's an onion, and you have to peel off the layers, and there's something rare and deep inside
yeah,
him. And oh, it's precious when you finally get it. It's actually a cool game to be playing. Like, yeah, I dig it. But we have these things that resonate with us, like, oh, this partner is completely emotionally unavailable. That turns me on. Somehow that feels right to me. This feels familiar. This feels exciting. I think it's romance. That happens over and over for my clients. So, intellectual understanding is one thing to break that. And people are welcome to check out my website, or even better, attachmentproject.com, for more information on attachment in general. And intellectual understanding helps. Sure, it's cool to feel like you've got a handle on the reasons for that, because there's forgiveness that can come with the reasons. But at the same time, we still walk around in the world operating from that place of what our nervous system's doing in the moment. I can have a head full of intellectual knowledge about what's going on for me, and then my habits and impulses are going to be exactly the same. That's the place that I got to with my former partner, was that, yes, I understood things really well. We got a bead on what it is. But at the
mm,
same time, I feel exactly the same and behaving the exact same. That's frustrating. That's what my clients experience a lot too, is that I just keep dating the same guy with a different face.
hmm,
So by reworking some of those experiences of what it feels like to be in connection and getting a new reference point, they're able to step out of that.
yeah. The embodiment piece, right? So, how do you take it from the head down to the heart, into the
Yeah.
body,
Into the hips.
systemically on a cellular level? How do we do that?
Ideally, all the way down into the hips, like the core of personhood.
Mm,
And how you do that is you have different experiences and you watch yourself. You watch your body as you're having them. You bring a lot of awareness and consciousness to what's happening. So I don't know what kind of spirituality your audience is most attuned to, but there's something to consciousness that's magical, where we shine our light on it and it heals somehow.
mm,
So by maintaining awareness of what your body is doing and exactly where you are in this moment, because this moment is where we heal from. By doing that, by having that somatic awareness and then also some new experiences, we're able to release old things, but it's not necessarily comfortable in that moment.
no,
So when safety occurs for somebody, when they feel really connected, really seen, really safe, it may trigger an impulse that's like, I want to run away. It may feel really, really anxious, not cool at all. That's common with my clients, and it's also common in the stories that they report, that they'll connect with somebody who's fantastic. Somehow they connected with somebody who communicates so well and is so present, and they make every subconscious effort to blow it. Like
yeah,
all of the insecurities come out and they try to climb to the top of his head with good reason. Like they're triggered. The 10-year-old is out. Absolutely. So it's so important when we connect with somebody who matters to have some skills in place to deal with that, to be able to hold center and not overwhelm ourselves with the intensity that can occur when somebody pulls away or when they come close. It's so valuable to be able to navigate those moments.
yeah. because we hold trauma literally in the body. We hold pain in the body from all these events that happen to us early in life. When I work with my clients, what I'm trying to do is I'm working on the earliest memories they have, the earliest traumas. And when doing that, it seems to unravel their life because we literally pull the pain out of the body. And I'm wondering, your shamanic practices, what do they look like?
They look like breathing. They look really boring. They look like close your eyes and breathe a lot of the
Yeah.
time, or close your eyes and visualize. That's one way that they occur. Sometimes it's in connection with me in the moment. What does eye contact feel like? What does it feel like to be talking about what you most desire sexually or romantically and kind of role playing it out? Like, ooh, it feels really good to be touched right here. When you're in the moment in a safe container with that, there is a somatic release that happens.
Mm.
You're free to pay really good attention to yourself or stop the conversation and say, I have this strange feeling in my shoulders. Let's just sit with that for a minute. Or when you said this came up. When all the focus is on the client like that, and it's not a relationship, it's not a situation where people are trying to simultaneously get their needs met. The client has a lot of space and freedom to be who they really are and explore what's happening for them without being re-triggered. Because what happens with attachment, especially, is that we re-trigger each other constantly. We will find a partner who's just custom designed to exactly trigger us. Like,
So
what?
true.
Yeah. Oh, I've done it. I have for sure did it big time. And it's a beautiful growth experience, maybe, or it's a place to get stuck and to get re-injured over and over. So yeah, it happens in the moment, happens in the body. There really is something to that where our trauma is stored in our body. And by addressing it, we lay a firm foundation for whatever is happening in our life. We just get more energy back. We get more selfhood back through
Mhm.
that. And research shows that people with different levels of attachment health, attachment security, can experience the same traumatic event and have very different outcomes. They can be abused by the same priest in the same orphanage. And depending on what their prior experiences of attachment were with caregivers, they can either be destroyed by it or manage it pretty well. So it affects how resilient we are, how connected we feel with ourselves, how easeful we are, how much we can love, and
Mhm.
how healthy that love is. I think it's like so trendy at the moment. It's just trending pop relationship psychology, but with good reason. And so many people can see themselves in that typology of attachment theory that it's just boom, instant lights go on.
Well, I think it's trending because we're seeing a shift in the dynamic of relationships. You were sort of talking about in the beginning about how women were in the lead of really, the emotional intelligence, and then here along come men. And I just see a huge shift of like women in the past, we needed men for survival. We needed them. For us to be single meant, you know, quite possibly we were property to men. Not very long ago, by the way. And so here we see this shift in a more equalization, right? And now we're seeing women peak because they're digging into their emotions and clearing their stuff. But what I see is that women don't they no longer need men for survival. Now they want them. But at the same time, they're not willing to stay in toxic relationships like they were before for survival because they don't need that, right? So I'm seeing this major shift in the dynamic where it's calling the men forward because, you know, the woman that is really healed and whole, she wants a man on that level. And she doesn't need it for survival. She wants it. And so I believe that's what's really shifting the energy of everything and calling everyone upward. But men in particular, they can't do their old toxic, overpowering, aggressive ways because she's just not going to hang. How do you see this playing out?
I see it exactly the same. that conditions have shifted and relationship is now discretionary, especially for women. That if she's earning money, if she's self-sufficient, that dramatically changes how relationship plays out. There's no dependence in that. The literal dependence that we have on each other is way less. And in one way, it's kind of tragic because we're connecting less. But in another, it's super healthy. That's the kind of relationship that I want. I don't want anybody solely dependent on me. I don't want any other person to experience that of being dependent on someone else. I like a measure of interdependence. And what's tragic right now is that women are pretty complete creatures. A woman who's earning well and has her emotional life in order doesn't have a ready place for a man. There's not a need there, as you were saying. It's a want, and she doesn't want to take on any other problems of someone who's not emotionally regulated. So it puts men in this tricky position of like, where do they fit in? How do I compliment her? What does she need me for? And men have for so long been oriented to what's needed. How can I be of service? How can I contribute? And he doesn't have a ready way to contribute when they sit down for a first date. And the connection is unclear and it's superficial and it's discretionary and it's optional. So it's really difficult for people to know how to connect right now. And women are shut down to men a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
They're so closed up. There's no flirting. There's no connecting. It's really walled defensiveness with good reason that they've had a lot of negative experiences. But women aren't necessarily open to what they're requesting now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
here's a decent guy who's actually got his shit together emotionally, and he has a job where he's paying the bills. Great. There's the partner. And she may not have openness to receive him just based on prior history.
Oh, I totally see that. Yeah, in working with singles, I find it very fascinating that women, a lot of women on their healing journey are divorced, they're out of relationships, and they're coming to me like, I want a man, but I don't want just any man. And they've got this really high criteria. And part of me is like, yes, feel that good about yourself that you can request only the best fit for you. But at the same time, some of the stuff on that list is, BS. It's like that is very specific. And so I just wonder, when there's got to be some sort of a balance in that, right? Of where, yes, she gets to have a man that is available to her, biggest thing. But there's a lot of things on her list that it's just too high. So maybe the swing, because that little swing that has to happen for us to come into balance, maybe she's just far on the other side of like, no one fits the criteria. There's no one around like this.
Truth,
Yeah.
truth. Yeah, there might not be anybody around like that. And it's important to be able to accept disappointment from
Yeah.
our partners of like, they're not meeting all of my needs perfectly. And it's a lot to put on men currently to think that they're going to continue to be the financial workhorse of the relationship, plan, structure, all of this, and then also have some new emotional skill set where they're able to respond like a female friend. He barely
Like
exists
a
if he's not
female
there.
friend. I like that. It's
Yeah,
true.
it's a high bar to clear. So
Yeah.
that's a lot to put on men. And there's some push for renewed gender polarity that you'll see online that women can attract men by being feminine. Men should hold this frame, be protect, provide, lead. And I don't go in for it in its entirety. I think there's something that's valuable there. Those are interesting energies to play with. But especially as it occurs for men right now, I don't want any part of that particularly. I don't want to be, if you think about it from a guy's perspective, I don't want to be paying for everything, making all the decisions, protecting, providing, being an emotional support. That's a parent. that's a child-parent relationship at that point,
Mhm.
taken to its extreme. And I don't know what women are experiencing from the other side. If you really absorb all those femininity messages, where does that put you, Tammy? Like what's your take on that? There's
Well, I,
power there, but also like
yeah. Well,
what
well, in the women I see, they're working, right? So they're providing that. Then they're coming home, they're cooking and clean. Then they're taking care of, they're wearing all these hats. Now, if it's a single woman, it's not the same conversation. But for what I'm seeing in women in my demographics, we're working outside the home, we're working inside the home, we're raising the kids. That's a lot of so much pressure of like, where's the 50-50 there? But I hear what you're saying as far as the because as far as the masculine and feminine, we're constantly going like this. Marriage is a oneness. The Bible talks about it as a oneness. Not that I subscribe to everything in there, but the oneness piece is interesting of like, we're coming to this place where we can be neutral in it together, blessing your gifts as you bring them and your gifts as you bring. Here we're both these, and then
Mhm.
we can create this beauty calling equally yoked, right? Where we
Mhm.
both come in with our strengths going towards the same goal. And I think that our partnership, the reason why we're drawn to our opposite is so that we become more like each other. But I don't think that happens when we're looking at the other person in judgment saying, hey, you got to do this, this, that, and the other, which was me. Truth be told, that was me for many, many years. So I see it very clearly. But we can't do that. We have to say, hey, here I'm coming in with these gifts. Bring in your gifts. Let's create something cool together. And as long as we see it that way, it's a blessing, it's a gift, it's delicious. But whenever we're looking at the other person critically, we're just not going to see it from that same vantage point. So I think it's about clearing all the shit we hold on to, which is all the pain from the past, all the woundings, everything that's been that we're drawing into this present moment by, you know what I'm saying, with the judgment. I think that has to be something we let go of for good, towards ourselves, for everyone, for everything. And then we have that clear perspective to be like, oh, this is what it's for.
Yeah. It's okay to be disappointed, and we might be asking too much too. That woman that you mentioned who's working outside the home, working within the home, doing all the emotional management for the home, she's taking on so much that she's a autonomous entity at that point.
Yeah.
She's the whole family in that moment. If she's doing all that, that's way too much. And there's no complement to that. It's not everybody bring their skills. It's almost like she's taking up slack for somebody else. And that might be the man in the relationship who's not cutting it in this way or another. So it's absolutely fair that there's a call to more responsibility and accountability for men in that situation. Men who've answered that call largely are like, I don't really want to do this thing where I lead, protect, provide all of it, all of it. I see it as a bit of a no win there. I was going to say something.
I
Do
hate
you?
when I lose my thought. Yeah, I mean, and then there's just so many different dynamics because in my dynamic, I am more of the protector. Like, even though my husband, he was in law enforcement for 15 years, I used to joke with people that if we were ever in like a 7-Eleven that was getting robbed, he'd be hiding behind me. He lets me fight my own battles if I get in because I'm more of the aggressor. So if I get in an argument with someone, he ain't coming to fill it. He lets me, he's like, you take care of yourself. We're both very independent people. It's just I had to be okay with what I had created. And the truth be told, we're creating it all. So whenever we're looking to someone, I this is what I tell my ladies, we got to put your blinders on and we got to work on you because it's so easy to look at them and say, "Oh, you don't do this or you're not that." But the truth is there is nothing that that person can give you. You have to really be filling your own cup. If I don't feel lovable, because my dominant command meaning the strongest limiting belief that I had held from childhood trauma was I'm unlovable. So I was literally not letting him or anyone else love me. I had this block up.
Mm.
So my perception though was you're not loving me. But the truth was when I went into it, I wasn't letting him love me.
Mm.
So I had to begin to take those bricks of that tall, deep wall all around my heart. I had to take it down brick by brick to feel safe enough to let someone love me.
Mhm.
So the truth is everything is within us. I believe everything is within us, leaking out, not the other way in. It's the perception within, it's the beliefs within that are creating the reality we see externally. So if you do not fill your own cup, please do not expect a man, a woman, your friends, your mother to fill your cup, because that just isn't the way it works.
A drug, a sports car, an
Food.
addiction. Yeah, food. There are so many ways where we try to fill our own cup in which it cannot be filled.
Mm-mm.
You can't fill it up with another person. You have to mostly do it on your own. And it's really nice if somebody helps, but everybody should have at least a half full cup.
Yeah, that's good too. Yeah, I mean, we get to have like when I come to my husband with, hey, I would love it if you rub my back, or I would love if you did like these little small things, but needing that to feel love is very different than just being like, hey, this would be nice, right? It's that expectation, or like if I think, oh, well, you
Mm.
just don't love me, right? It's just all in the perception that we take on from these little things. Now I'm to the place where it's just all extras. That's all
Yeah.
just bonus. It's extras. It's nice. It's great. But I fill my own cup. So that's just how I see it. It's taking radical responsibility for where I'm at and what I'm experiencing.
Mhm.
But yes, it is nice to be in a partnership where it's that give. And I notice a lot of people when they start on their healing journey, they're probably not in those kind of relationships.
For sure. Yeah. The person who's starting out is probably in a messy relationship. Because they have some bad conditioning, bad programming. And the
Yeah.
flip side of that radical self-responsibility that you mentioned is your partner not rubbing your back, and that meaning that you're unlovable.
Hmm.
If love is entirely outside of you and somebody's denying you love based on whatever their preferences are, that they don't feel like rubbing your back, then you're unlovable. You're cut off from love. That's a dramatic place to be, and relationships get really contentious and messy at that point if we're soul sourcing love from a partner.
Yeah. Welcome to the majority of my life.
Oh, mine
I
too.
mean, I
Mine
mean,
too.
it
Yeah.
just, I was such an absolute mess, which is what led me on my journey. Much like you, in your path, like when I became a wife, when I became a mom, all my triggers started sounding off from a very traumatic childhood.
Mm.
And having not dealt with those old woundings, I mean, I was just a mess. Everything triggered me because I had wounds gaping everywhere, just pussing and bleeding everywhere. Not a cute picture, I'm sorry, but that was who I was. And it wasn't until I dealt with the wounding that I could see things from a very different perspective as like a third party looking in. And I believe that's what we all get to do it when we do our inner work, is see it from a totally different perspective, because we don't have all those triggers constantly being poked.
Yeah. And I love your image of taking down the brick wall around
Yeah.
your heart, that happens at the same time, that it's piece by piece, brick by brick. Um, and then you do get to a place where you're much more relaxed, much more centered, and seeing things through different eyes.
Yeah. Oh, this is such a beautiful conversation.
Thank you for
I'm gonna
having me.
be I'm gonna be high on this conversation all day. You realize?
Yeah, me too. It's good connecting with you. Yeah.
So please let us know where everyone can find you, what offerings you have, where people can get in touch with you. Let us know all the things.
If people are interested in reconditioning their attachment style, or for men, developing that emotional wherewithal that brings so much strength to their life, PolarityUnscripted.com is my website for coaching. You can also check out my podcast, Polarity Unscripted, and Instagram at Polarity Unscripted. If people want a webinar that explains attachment and how to address it, especially if you're the anxiously attached partner in a relationship, go to PolarityUnscripted.com/heal. It's a pretty good synopsis of my thinking, my experience with clients, and then some of the leading research on attachment.
Oh, so good. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for your beautiful wisdom. And thank you for the work that you are doing in this world because, gosh, we need you right now.
Oh, thank you, Tammy. Thank you so much. I will take that in. Appreciate you.
Yeah.